Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another discussion video. In today's video, we're going over the red Broly cards being spoiled for set 11 Vermilion Bloodline. Pretty interested to talk about these cards because we're seeing the reintroduction of Swap. We haven't seen Swap in a little while now. What was it? Set 8? I guess technically set 9 had some indirect Swap support with the red Frieza stuff, but that wasn't really direct Swap stuff. This is actually Swap stuff. We have Swap in red, but this is not really related to that, so it's been a little while. Guys, if you are new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. If you want to help the channel out, there are many links in the description to do so. Check out the Gemmy app and the Patreon if you want your one-on-one coaching, as well as your crossword competitive articles to get into the competitive scene. If you guys want to buy the Crossword TCG merch, the link is down there as well. Use my link TCG player if you want to pre-order or buy any Dragon Ball Super cards. And finally, guys, sleeves, deck boxes, binders, all that good stuff. Use decks down in the description. That being said, let's get started. So we have the red Broly leader here. I think we have a Broly leader in every color now. I guess not a Broly BR in green or black, but we have yellow, green, and now red. So Broly BR, activate main once per turn, add one card from life to your hand. This card gains critical for the turn. That set 1 Vegeta effect. This is on a few leaders. It's on Vegeta, it's on Slug, and maybe one or two other leaders. And it's really interesting. So this leader clearly does not draw cards on the unawakened side, except for this next effect. Activate main, add up to 1 red extra card with energy cost of 1 from your deck to your hand. Shuffle your deck, then negate this skill for the game. So somewhat similar to the green Broly BR leader, where he searches a 1-drop once per game and you just negate the skill after that. He searches a red extra card. So I saw a pretty cool, or I heard a pretty cool theory from a friend actually, that this may actually end up searching a field card, which would make a lot of sense because the green Broly BR deck, they search the 1-drop Broly, and you need that card to pretty much start all your plays. If you don't have that card, you realistically can't play the strategy. So with that being the case, this may also have a field card that does a similar thing. Like, it's pretty reliant for the deck to have it. So the leader searches it. What's really cool though is, like, if you happen to open the field spell, that searches like one of your negates, like Wolfang Fist, After Image, any of those good cards. So that's pretty cool. But again, the lack of draw is kind of interesting. So awaken, let life's 4 or less. Switch up 2 of your energy to active mode, then flip this card over. I do kind of think this leader is going to want to awaken as soon as physically possible, because that lack of advantage on the side is kind of unfortunate. So you might really only want to spend like maybe 1 to 2 turns on your unawakened side, get that extra card, and then flip over. So let's read the awakened side of the leader. Broly the Awakened Demon, permanent. If you have a red Broly BR card in play, this card gains critical. So once again, we have crit. When this card attacks, draw 1, then this card gains 5,000 power for the battle. So we're attacking with crit, drawing, and gaining 5k. I like the sound of that. You guys know I'm a big fan of the UI starter Goku leader, so this effect I'm a big fan of. Auto, choose 1 card in your hand and discard it. When one of your red Broly BR cards is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill or KO'd, choose up to 1 red Broly BR with energy cost of 4 or less in your hand and play it. Okay, so if your chain gets interrupted, and we know that most Broly decks revolve around some type of Broly chain, if your chain gets interrupted, the leader says you can discard a card as a cost to play another 4-drop or less Broly BR from your hand. I think it's a good effect in terms of allowing you to reset your tempo, but it is relatively costly. So just to activate the effect, again, you're discarding a card and then also playing a Broly from your hand, not from your drop area. So that's costing you 2 cards out of your hand. Yes, you're generating free board presence, which is very good. Probably a justified cost for that type of effect. But I think just that, with the combination of the lack of advantage you gain on the front side of your leader, it could be problematic. But I'm not gonna count this leader out yet. I do think there is definitely potential for it to be strong. Let's go on reading the rest of the cards. So we have Broly Sand Youth, our 1-drop that gets us into the rest of our swap pieces. So he has swap 3. You go into mono red Broly with energy cost of 3. Permanent, if you have a red Ba BR card in play, this card gets plus 11,000 power, so he becomes a 15k 1 energy attacker. Auto, when this card's played, you can't play copies for the turn. Okay, so they're not letting us do like replay swap shenanigans. This is probably something that Bardock the Progenitor should have had on its card text, or maybe could even be errated to one day. But that's what that is. So let's read the Ba. Ba, Broly's first friend. 2-drop 5k, blocker, auto. When this card's played, add up to 1 mono red Broly with energy cost of 5 or less from your deck to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So this seems to search most of your Brolys. One of the Brolys, I believe, is a 6-drop, so he won't search that one, but he will search all your littler Broly swap cards. And honestly, now that I look at this card and kind of see what they're going for here, this is a searcher. I wouldn't be surprised if that field card that we're kind of predicting they're going to come out with, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a Planet Vampa. Is that what it's called? Vampa? Planet Vampa from the movie. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the field card, like getting Broly basically on that planet. That'd be kind of interesting. Maybe it plays this card for free. Who knows? But just some speculation. Broly, Bonafide Sand. We have a 3-drop 9k, swap 4 for 1 red energy into a mono red Broly BR with energy cost of 4. He has Servant. So this is a new keyword skill. Let's give it a quick read and I'll kind of explain it to the best of my ability. So Servant says this card gets plus 10,000 power and can't be switched to active mode during your charge phase. So what that means to me is this card just permanently gains 10,000 power. So if you were to negate its skills somehow with like a Cold Bloodlust or Frost Poison or something else that negates skills, this would be a 9k battle card. But for all intents and purposes, this is a 19k battle card while it exists face up on the field. And when you attack with it or it's tapped by some way, there is no way to untap it. That seems to be the thing with this strategy, with this particular keyword skill. So you get some type of power boost. In the case of this card, honestly, it's not that impressive of a power boost, and you can't switch back to active mode. I guess maybe that's their way of, you know, stopping us from doing dependable Dynasty Goku stuff, like just, you know, swapping into this attack, swap into this attack. So I guess that's maybe a balancing thing. I know there's Overlord that puts Servants to the bottom of the deck to draw cards, but we haven't seen that yet out of this deck. But let's read the auto. When this card's played, choose up to 1 red Paragus BR card, then it costs 1 in your hand, and play it. So this set of spoilers this round does not show the Paragus. Perhaps the Paragus has Overlord. Maybe he sends this Broly to the bottom of the deck, and maybe he, I don't know, somehow reset your chain, because interrupting your own chain to go into the swap 4 can be a bit problematic. So we'll have to see what that card does. But anyways, Broly, Power of the Great Ape. We have a 4-drop 10k, swap 5 into a red Broly BR. Servant, this card gets plus 10,000 power and can't be switched to active mode during your charge phase. So he's basically a 20k that again cannot untap. Auto, if your leader card is red when this card is played, choose up to 1 of your red unison cards, add a marker to it, then your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and sends it to their warp. At the end of your opponent's next turn, they add the card sent to their warp by this skill from their warp to their hand. Okay, that was a mouthful. Let's break it down. So leader card's red, which means you don't have to play the Broly leader with this, but again, if there's a field card that you really need, you probably will end up playing that Broly leader just to search it out. But anyways, again, we see the effect, same thing as Gogeta, adding unison markers to your red unisons. We talked about that before. There could be a unison with a pretty crazy minus effect, like, I don't know, maybe -7, destroy your opponent's hand, something like that. Like, it could be something strong like that because you're continuing to add unison markers to a red unison. We haven't seen the red unison for this set yet. We know there is one coming out from the set 11 Vermilion Bloodline trailer. But let's talk about the next card of the next part of the effect. So your opponent chooses a card in their hand, sends it to the warp. At the end of the turn, they get the card back. So for a brief instance, you're warping something out of their hand and then they get it back. What does that mean? So on the face of it, that seems kind of lame in a sense, because it's not like permanent hand control, right? Why would you want to play this deck and, you know, kind of not permanently rip a card out of your opponent's hand and they get it back? Well, the thing with this is it seems like it wants to be a somewhat aggressive deck. You want to swap, and just like swap has always been in the past, you want to swap into your bigger battle cards, swing with them constantly, and then you want to basically, you know, put as much pressure on the opponent as possible. So this temporary warp actually might not end up being that bad. You rip a card for the time being, they don't have that card to defend with. Sure, they get it back, but the damage should already be done. At least I think that's kind of the mindset they're going with here. So let's read the 5-drop Broly. We have SS Broly Combat Evolution, 5-drop 30k critical, always a keyword I like to see. Swap 6 if your opponent has 3 or more energy, or you have 4 or more energy. So there is a restriction for going into this card. It could come out a little bit earlier when you're going second, just to keep that in mind. So this can swap into your Broly 6-drop. Keep in mind that we've seen most of these swap cards have at least 1 energy cost to swap into the next thing, except for the 1-drop. Auto, if your leader card is red, when this card is played, choose 1 of your red unison cards, add a marker to it. Then your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand, sends to the warp. At the end of your opponent's next turn, they add the card sent to their warp by the skill from their warp to their hand. Okay, so pretty much the same exact auto as the 4-drop. So again, you're giving them that kind of minor interruption, that temporary hand rip, but they're getting it back. But you are putting a lot of pressure on here. So if we go through the curve, you have the 1-drop that goes into the 3-drop. So that's 1 energy right there. For another energy, you go into the 4-drop. Another energy, you go into this 5-drop. So that was 3 energy worth. Probably on turn 3, you can go through that whole chain. And then depending on who went first or second, and depending on where that field card kind of fits into the curve, by turn 4, you may go into this and you may go into the 6-drop that we'll read right now. So SS Broly Unlimited Power, 6-drop unique, critical, double strike, auto. If the card's red, when this card's played, choose one of your red unison cards, add 2 markers to it. Then you choose 3 of your opponent's cards in their hand, send them to the warp. At the end of the turn, they get it back. So, okay, here, when you get to the big boy, you basically choose the 3 cards for your opponent, you warp them, they get them back. But that random rip is always better than them picking the worst cards in their hand and getting rid of them, right? So you want to go into this. Ideally, I think the way it's going to work out is turn 4, turn 3 if you go second. But again, we don't know where the field card kind of fits into the curve. So that in mind, this does seem to be a pretty strong boss monster, potentially. I do think we really need to see what the extra cards are this will search, and we need to see what the Paragus does. I think it's going to actually mean a lot for this archetype. But guys, I want in the comments below what you think about this Broly support. Let me know if you're interested in it. Let me know if you think it's terrible. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time.